Welcome. Good evening to everyone tuning in from Europe. Good morning to those in the other parts of the world. My name is Mickey. I'll be your host today. This is the episode number 15 of Ignite Showcases. I am a former colleague of some of the co-founders, and I've had the honor to host today's episode. And today it's going to be a really exciting episode because we're presenting Fa. Fa is a really interesting sports professional, and she has a very interesting story to tell. So I'm tuning in from Cardiff. But before I introduce myself, I would like to give you a quick introduction to Ignite, especially to those who are tuning in for the first time today and they are not really familiar with the concept. Ignite is an international team of passionate Olympic game experts who are providing specialized consultancy services for multi-sports events. So most of the four co-founders, they have been involved in a sports event since almost 10 years. And if you would like to find out more about their services, you can have a look on their website, their Twitter, Instagram, or other social media. The international team of Ignite has been founded earlier this year, but actually the first idea and the talks about the company have already been held in 2016. So the idea has been there for a while, but this year the timing was just right. The core team of the four co-founders came together and created a big network with over 70 international freelancers who are called Igniters. They're so rich in experience, and on the top, they all share the same values and are always seeking to deliver the excellent service. So to introduce their team to promote the services and Igniters themselves, the co-founders developed Ignite's showcases and Ignite's knowledge. So the what is series that some of you are probably familiar with. The main objective of the two series is to introduce and showcase the event professionals who are within the Ignites network to inspire others to consider a career in sports and to provide knowledge and insight into the planning and organizing of what actually happens behind the scene of the sports events. So as I already said before when we were waiting to start this episode, if you have a question, if you would like to ask Fa any questions, if you would like to share something with us, please feel free to add your comments in the comment section below. Please also let us know where you're tuning in from and what's your background. And we're looking forward to receiving your comments and a fruitful discussion today. So first of all, I would like to thank Ignite and especially Niu and Ilva for the opportunity to be an Igniter and to actually host this episode today. And before we start the episode, I would like to give you a short introduction of myself. So my name is Michalina. Most of people actually call me Mickey now. I'm originally from Poland, but I've been living in the UK for almost 5 years now. A lot like our today's guest, I've actually never planned to work in events. I was never a competitive athlete. I am actually primarily a linguist. My whole adventure of sport started when at 16 I was asked to help with a local acrobatic gymnastics event. I was asked to be a compere in English and also provide delegation services. From that one event, I actually started volunteering in the club for 5 years. I also started recreational trainings, as you can see on the screen. But when I went to university, I still chose languages. So it happened that in 2012, Poznan, which is where I studied, was the host of the UEFA Euro Cup. I decided to apply to volunteer, and I got put in the accreditation department. Later, I've also volunteered in Sochi in 2014 because, to be fair, my degree was in Russian, and I only went to Sochi, or primarily went to Sochi, to develop my language skills. It wasn't until 2015 that I realized that sports can actually become a career. In 2015, I participated in the event that was already brought up by many of the other Igniters on the series. So the European Youth Olympic Festival in Austria, in Schruns. That's where I met Nia, that's where I met Ilva. And then I actually realized that sports and events can actually become a day job. So later that year, I moved to Wales and I got a job as a performance coordinator for the Welsh Gymnastics. It was a very interesting experience, organizing events and helping with the preparation of the team to go to Gold Coast, so the 2018 Commonwealth Games. After I left gymnastics around 2018, I became a public service interpreter. So this is the second stream of my career. I specialize in law. I work in courts. However, in 2019, I joined the village team of the Summer Universiade in Napoli, where I met our today's guests. So now I would like to introduce you to Fa. Fa, who was my former colleague in Napoli. She was actually one of the people who interviewed me for my position. So it's funny how the tables turn. Today I'll be interviewing her. I got to know Fa as an incredible professional, a very quick thinking, problem solving person who was always there to help not only her colleagues but also the other all the delegations. But obviously what Fa brought to the table was her incredible experience she made before during Rio 2016, European Championships, and many other events before. But Fa actually never planned to work in events, and this is what we would like to discuss with you today. So let's welcome Fa. Hello, Fa.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Michalina. Nice to see you again.
Nice
How's
to
everything?
see you. Good, thank you. How are you today?
Very good. I'm in Glasgow at the moment. It's raining cats and dogs, like people used to say here. But yeah, it's a good day
Yeah,
anyway. Yes.
I'm in Cardiff. All
Yeah.
right then. So let us begin. So why don't you start from the beginning? Tell us a bit more about yourself. Where are you from?
Okay. So I will start that I'm from West Africa. It's a tiny little country from that's called Guinea-Bissau. This is where my parents come from, but I was born and raised in Lisbon. And when I was a kid, when I was about 9, I started to play volleyball. So was my interaction with sports. And I really love volleyball. It's my favorite sport. And I played through 9 until my time in the university. Uh, then I did my degree in finance and accounting. And after that, when I finished my studies, I went to Budapest to do an internship that supposed to be for a year, and I stayed there for 6 years.
Wow. Okay, so we've got Budapest, we've got finance and accounting, and
Yeah.
suddenly you ended up in Rio. How did that happen?
Oh, so the thing is, in 2012, I went to, actually 2011, I went on holiday with my sisters to Rio and we went for the carnival. And before that, I already wanted to change. I didn't know for what, but I knew I needed to change either the city or the job. And when I went to Rio, I really loved the atmosphere and the people, the Brazilian people, they're really nice and friendly. It's a place where you have sun, it's like summer, nice food, a nice place to visit. And I just said, well, this is the place that I'm gonna live. So I went back to Budapest. I packed my stuff, and then the next year I was already in Rio.
Wow. Okay,
Yes.
so that's a very bold move, some would say.
Uh,
You had a full-time job in Budapest and suddenly you moved to the other side of the world to do what? What
yes.
did you intend to do in Rio?
Yeah, I know that people say that it's a little bit crazy to leave like a steady job and the career opportunity to grow and to pack your stuff and go to Rio. But the thing is, I really needed to change. And when I got to Rio, I was looking for a job. But to be honest, I thought it would be easy because I speak Portuguese. I have background in accounting and finance. But it was hard to find a job because you need to have the company to sponsor your visa. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to stay there. And this is a thing as well that I met a lot of people. They will say they will help me and everything. But when I would call them to say, look, I just sent you my CV. Can you please check on your company if they have any position? They would just ignore me. So I stayed like this for 6 months. And I remember as well, like my mom saying like, why don't you come back either to Portugal? Why don't you apply for uh, for Angola because they need people with accounting and finance. Why you still want to stay there? There is no opportunity for you. And I was like, thinking in myself, maybe I should listen to my mom and go back either to Europe or another country. But somehow something inside me would say, no, you need to stay here, you need to stay here, you need to find a way to stay here. So after 6 months, I went back to Lisbon. I applied for a MBA, finance.
All right.
Then I went back to Lisbon and then I did my papers and I came back again and started looking for a job, but I didn't find anything.
All right. Okay. So you moved to Rio. You were not able to find a job. So how did you actually end up working in events?
Well, actually, when I was studying, doing my MBA, I met a woman that she's from Kazakhstan, and she was a really nice lady, and we started to chat during our breaks of the classes. And one day she asked me, well, where you from? Where you coming? Where did you work? And I started to explain my story, and then she's like, oh, you speak English? I'm like, yes, yes, yes. She's like, oh, I need to improve my English because I'm a director in an accounting company, and I have meetings with directors, and my English is not so good. I'm like, sure, we can talk in English. I can text you as well in English, like call you in English, so that you can improve your English. And then one of these days, like it was a Thursday, she was like, but Fa, why you're here in Rio? What are you doing? Why are you studying here? And then I said, well, to be honest, I'm not here to study. I'm looking for a job, but it's quite hard because every time that I find a person that tells me that's going to offer me help to find a job, at the end they don't do it. And you know, I'm not Brazilian. I'm not married to a Brazilian person, so I don't have the documents, and it's a little bit expensive for the companies to sponsorship a visit for me. And even when I went to the interviews, I would say that I would pay for the sponsor, and they would say, I'm sorry, you need to have the visa first, and then we will employ you. So then she said, why don't you send me your CV? Because I work in an accounting company, and then we can find um, uh, like a position for you over there. I'm like, sure. So after the lesson, I went home, I wrote the email, sent it to her, and then around midnight, she came back to me by email like, oh, I'm sorry, your CV is really, really good. So I can't employ you. And I'm like, here we go again. The same story that the person will help me. And it's fine the time. Now that I got the time, she said that she's not going to help me. But then she said, don't worry. My previous company that I was working, they're looking for someone that speaks English. So I'm going to forward your CV. But I thought, oh, this is again conversations, you know, she's trying to be nice and everything. And what had happened that on Friday morning, actually, somebody from HR called me and they're like, oh, we got your CV. We wanted to make an interview. Are you interested? And I'm like, okay, yes. And then they're like, oh, can you come on Monday to do the interview? And I'm like, oh, Monday I cannot because I need to finish my assignment. But if you want, I can come on Tuesday. And she's like, okay, you can come on Tuesday. So when she hung up the phone, I'm like, I'm stupid. I'm really trying to find a job. And I just refused to have an interview on Monday, which is my priority instead of my assignment for the school. But anyway. And then after that, I went there on Tuesday. I had the interview, the English. I had as well with finance. And after the interview, the director of finance from the company said, well, we really liked your CV, but the person that you're going to work with is in London, and the person will call you on Wednesday just to check that your English is good, because I can access that you speak really good English, but I'm not the person that you're going to be work with. I'm like, oh, okay. So Wednesday came up, nobody called me. I'm like, okay, so maybe they find another person, a Brazilian person that they don't have to pay them the visa, that speaks English. Fair enough. So what can I do? Move forward. So on Thursday morning, the director, she called me. She's like, oh, I'm sorry, just to let you know that we're still thinking about you, but the person is very, very busy in London, but he will call you on Friday in the morning, 11 a.m. I'm like, oh, sure, no problem. But the thing is, the next day I already booked to go to Two Brothers, a hill. so that you can climb and see the panoramic view of the city. And when the director from London called me, I was climbing the hill and I was with my friends. Yes. And I'm like telling to my friends, please wait. I need to get this call. So I was doing the interview on the phone for 1 hour and a half, talking in English. He was assessing as well my finance, like about accounting and everything. And then my friends were like, hurry up, we need to go up. I'm like, wait, please wait. It was complex to have this call like in the middle of the mountain that you are about to climb. Then I hang up and everything. My friends, they were a little bit pissed, like, we are here waiting for you for 1 hour and a half. You're supposed to be already on the top of the mountain. We are still here waiting for you. I'm like, I'm sorry. I just had this interview that I couldn't refuse. So we went up, we take pictures, really nice panoramic place to go and see the city, because you see Corcovado, you see the Christ Redeemer, you see the Copacabana, Ipanema, the Lagoa. And then when I came back, it was around 7:30. Somebody just called me from HR. She was like, "Oh, just to let you know that you got the job." And I'm like, "What do you mean I got the job?" Yes. She's like, "No, you just got the job and you can come on Monday." I'm like, "Really?" And I started to scream on the phone. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm really, really happy. That's why I'm screaming, because I'm trying to get a job and being difficult for me." And she's like, "No, it's okay." And I'm like, "Are you really, really sure this is a job for me?" She's like, "Yeah, you can come on Monday, 10 o'clock. I'm like, "No, I will come Monday, 9 o'clock, just to make sure that the job is going to be there and you didn't change your mind." So, but once I got in the office on Monday, actually, this scene within a week, like my life changed completely from not having a job to having a job. And when I went to the office, I'm like, so the lady said that I'm supposed to do some financial cash flow reporting and go to some stadiums. So my job is related with what? And then somebody said, "Oh, it's related with football." And I'm like, "Oh, with the first league of the Brazilian league, like Flamengo games and so on." They're like, "No, no, 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 no. You're gonna work for the World Cup." I'm like, "What do you mean World Cup?" They're like, "Yeah, so next year in 2014 is gonna be the World Cup, and this year in 2013 we're gonna have the Confederation Cup, that is like the test event to see if the stadiums are ready." And I'm like, "Really? Really, really? I'm really working for the World Cup? I can't believe it." So it became like a dream job for me, that I could do finance and work in events. I like football. So I was really thrilled and happy that this happened to me.
So you went
So,
from not having a
yes,
job for months to actually getting a job in events, not knowing that you will
yes,
be working for the World
not
Cup.
knowing. Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
So Confederations Cup. Sorry, Val, before we move to the next question, can I ask you to move the mic in front of your earring? I think it's causing a bit of,
This one.
yeah.
Wait, I can take this one. I can be stylish with one earring.
You always are. Lovely. So your first event then, Confederations Cup. What was your most memorable moment? I guess the first event is always the one we remember best, the shock of the new industry. What do you remember the most about the Confederations Cup?
Well, the thing is, they hire me to do finance, and when the game started, like before they started, they're like, "Oh, we need to send you to the stadium, to the venue, so that you can help doing the cash flow over there." And I'm like, "Why should I go to the stadium? I can do the cash flow here. I just have my computer and do all the transactions and everything." They're like, "No, but we need help over there, because, just for you to understand how the concessions work." And I'm like, I felt a little bit weird, but like, okay, let me go there. So I went to the stadium, and all of a sudden, they kind of put me to work, like to help in terms of logistics, like to make sure that the beers and the Coca-Cola were coming from the logistics compound to the concessions, make the distribution, like make sure that all the staff have the uniform, that we have enough cash as well for everybody to make the transactions. So I started to be operational, and I'm like, it's a little bit weird. I'm supposed to do finance, not supposed to be doing operation. And the thing is, when you are in the operation side, you start to see how difficult it is. Because I had a situation that, FIFA at that time decided that we would stop selling beer at 75 minutes of the match. And the thing is, it was like, I think was the third place between Argentina and Italy. And we were on the north in Fortaleza. I will never forget this day in this stadium. It was really hot. The 75, we went to extra time and then penalties. But before there, people, they wanted to come and buy more beer. And we're like, oh, I'm sorry. We can only sell beer till the 75 minutes. Now we have to stop. And the guy's like, what do you mean you're not selling any more beer? I'm like, it's FIFA rules. You think I'm a kid that I came all the way down here just to drink Coca-Cola and water? I want to drink beer. I'm not a child. And who the hell is FIFA to come here and detect this? No, we want beer. So they started to scream like all the stadium, we want beer. We want beer.
Oh my
Not
God.
caring anymore about the game. And they started like to kick the concessions. We were shredding the things down, and they started to spit on our stuff. So I was like, "Sorry, I'm not paid to be here. I'm not operation. I'm supposed to be in the air conditioning room in front of my computer, just dealing with spreadsheet and numbers." So this is how actually I started well having a little bit of understanding about the operations, and then understand that actually there is a hard life behind the back of house, you know. And then after that we went back to FIFA and we're like, excuse me, either you cut completely the beer from the beginning or you need to extend until the end, because we are in Brazil and it's hot, and people, it's like common to drink in their customs. So it doesn't make any sense to stop on the 75 minutes, you know. So at the end, after all this conversation back and forward, we managed to convince the FIFA to have the beer throughout the game. But that was my experience that I will never forget in my life. That
Wow.
I got traumatized, but it didn't make me quit of events.
That is impressive. I mean, it's an easy decision to make from the office to say we're stopping selling beer if you don't have to actually stand in front of the angry mob who would like to drink.
Yes,
But okay,
yes,
so first event, first big battle. Um, then you moved on to the World Cup, and
yes,
then came the Rio Games. Yeah.
yes. So from
So
the Confederation Cup, we did we did the World Cup as well. That was 12 stadiums, which was as well difficult to manage. And actually, as well, I have another story related to World Cup. If you want, I can tell you. But
go on.
well, since you ask. So in the World Cup as well, I had the experience. So in the World Cup, I suppose again to do finance manager. So I made all the planning, how many people we're supposed to have in the stadium, what's going to be the cash flow, what is the process for the company to come and collect the money, and so on, so on. But as we know, what we plan never comes to operation. So, for example, I had planned to have one coordinator and three staffs for the finance, and we had some statements that we only had one person. So this is difficult to make then all the distribution of the cash and as well the collection of the cash at the end of the football match. So I went to one stadium again, Fortaleza. I think this stadium has love hate with me. I don't know. Still need to find out. And on that stadium, we only had one finance coordinator, but throughout the process, we managed to get one guy, and he started to work like I think it was like 3 days before the first match, and on the day of the match, he was there helping in the morning, like going up and down and everything, and we supposed to open the stadium like 3 hours before. before. And the sudden talk to you. I'm like, okay, where are you? Oh, I'm on the level 3. Can you please meet me here close to the concession number? I don't remember now, 60. So I went there. It's like, so just to let you know that I'm leaving. And I'm like, what do you mean you're leaving? We are about to open the stadium like now. And it's like, no, no, I'm sorry. I really, really like you as a person, but this job is not for me. I'm like, what do you mean? No, it's too much pressure, too much confusion, too much people. This is not for me. I'm not able to cope all of this. And I'm like, at least can you not wait until the end of the game and then you quit? It's like, no, 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 no. I want to quit now. Don't take it personally, but I really want to leave now. So all of the sudden, I became again with one person to do all the cash from the stadium, which takes time and is demanding. So I will never forget as well this amazing experience that I had in the World Cup.
Well, I mean, we all can agree that working in events is a lot of pressure and operations are definitely not for everyone, but that is one
Yes.
extreme example.
Yes.
Right then. So World Cup has ended, and then you got a position at the Rio Games, right? 2016 Olympic Games.
Yes. So I started there as the food and beverage project coordinator because my boss at that time, she needed someone with English and Portuguese to help with the team because the majority of the classes they were all Brazilians and some of them didn't speak English, and as well to help with the contracts because we were a little bit behind with the contracts to be signed with the caterers. So mainly I did management of contracts, and I help as well in terms of planning to help the clusters to develop the planning with the caterers to make sure that we have the right number of staff in place, for example, the right number of trucks for logistic to make the deliveries, and so on, so on. And then during events, then I was responsible to go around and make sure, like with the checklist, make sure that the caterer was following the planning that we have done in the previous months.
All right. So that was already a bit different from what you've done before.
Yes, it was more operational. It was more operational, and I already knew that this will be a operational role as well. So I went prepared, not like the other ones that somebody just pushed me in front of a train and is like, save yourself.
Well, but this time you actually already had experience in operations.
Yes.
But before we move on to other events, we have a question from Neo. Neo asks, I didn't know you're originally from Guinea-Bissau. Have you been back there since your family moved to Portugal?
Yes, I've been in Guinea-Bissau in 2017 because I had a break from Rio. And I went to visit my grandma that at that time she was a little bit sick and she thought that she would die and she wanted to see the grandchildren. So we went there, then we took her to the hospital and she's still alive.
Wow, you must have been very happy to see you.
Yes.
Okay, so that actually fits quite nicely into our timeline. So 2017, you went back home. 2018, you did the European Championships in Glasgow.
Yes. So when I finished Rio, I went back home for Christmas, spent time with my family. And then in 2017, in March, I applied for a position for the European Championship. That was the catering, cleaning and waste. And I did the interview in March. And then in April, beginning of April, I got the confirmation that I passed the interview and I started to work in 2017 in the European Championship in Glasgow.
Okay, so you mentioned your role was catering, cleaning and waste.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit more, what does this role actually entail? Because I think not even all event professionals are familiar with that role.
Yes. So catering, cleaning and waste is basic like kind of two FAs that are combined because the event is quite smaller. But in a bigger scale, if you do, for example, Olympics, usually you have one FA just for catering that we call food and beverage. And then you have another department for cleaning and waste. So there it's the three of them combined. So catering, basically we take care of all the food services for all the clients, like athletes in the village, athletes as well in the venues, the workforce, like the contractors, spectators as well, the VIPs. And then for cleaning as well is all the cleaning service that we need to provide to all the spaces like the TO lounge, the athletes lounge, the workforce as well office, let's say as well the workforce break area that we need to clean between the meal periods, even as well to clean the sitting ball between the sessions as well. So basically we clean all the venue, and sometimes not only as well within the venue but as well outside. If you have, for example, a sport that is in a open air space like mountain bike, so you need to do a little bit of litter picking. And then we have as well waste. So first we define what kind of waste streams we're gonna have, like general waste or food waste or compostable waste or medical waste as well, because we have the medical and doping control that they have their own specific kind of waste that we need to um, deal in a more private and confidential way, and hazardous waste that then in each venue we have like a compound, waste compound, where we then collect all the bins, and then a company will come to collect the waste. So, and this is like a 24-hour operation.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, it's a very interesting area, which I think not many people realize how important it is, and especially
Yeah.
now, since the talks are of making the games more sustainable,
Yes.
more eco-friendly, with more recycling. It's actually
Yes.
a really important position. All right then.
Mm.
So now you work for Birmingham 2022, the Commonwealth Games, and you work for the
Yeah.
same functional area. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. So I just got this position in August, and I just started. It's fresh new. So I'm working from home in Glasgow. At the moment, we are only three people: my boss and another colleague and me, and we are developing the scope of work, which is like the document that will go out for tender, so that the caterers, for example, can bid for the service for the project.
Okay. And what kind of caterers is that? Are we talking about catering for the client groups, such as athletes, delegations, or more about concessions, spectators, or both?
So actually, it's both. So we will have actually we divide the clients in two categories. So we have obligatory clients, and then we have the user pay clients. So the obligatory clients is all the clients that the OC is obliged to provide the service, like athletes, TOs, media, the games family, and workforce. So this can be, for example, one caterer. And then we have the spectator site that we're going to have either concessions or food trucks that then will provide the food and beverage service for the spectators.
All right. Fantastic. We've got another question here from IGNITX. Can you share what are the different sustainability measures that Birmingham 2022 is implementing in terms of CCW?
That's a very good question. We are still writing the sustainability guidelines, because there is that deals with sustainability, but we are trying to have, for example, more compostable package, for example, so that we don't use plastic too much. We are thinking as well, for example, to use reusable bottles so that we can reduce as well the number of plastic bottles that we have on site. But then this depends from client to client, because there are some clients, for example, athletes, that they are a specific one because they do doping control and everything, that maybe we cannot use the reusable cups, because then can bring some conflict.
Absolutely. And also on the same note, we have a question from one of the four founders, Gustavo. Hello, Fat. The next big events people are discussing to cut the nice to have the items to reach better sustainability. Do you think catering would play a role in this mentality, but still respecting the athlete's needs for nutrition to compete?
Absolutely, like clients, especially the athletes, and we know that they have a special food needs. So this is what we need to take in consideration first. But if we can apply sustainability then in other clients, like for example, workforce and contractors, then we will apply in this client. So it depends, like it's based on the client needs as well and what is their priorities.
All right, thank you. And now I'd like to ask you about a very special event, Napoli 2019, where we had the pleasure to meet. Also, shout out to our Napoli colleagues who are watching. Remember, we can't see you, but we can see your comments, so please say hello. So in Napoli, your functional area was completely different to what you've done before. You were the deputy head of village, is that right?
Yes. So after finish the Glasgow 2018, I stayed in Glasgow for a while, and then the next year, 2019, our good boss at that time, that was Anna Roca, said that I should apply for a position. So I applied for the Universiade, and actually, when I was doing the interview, the director asked me which functional area I would like to go, because they had this position open, the deputy had for the village, or to go for food and beverage. So the thing is, I was like hesitating, sometimes you have to decide something and you have like the devil and the angel on your shoulder, like go to CC, go to food and beverage. No, go to the village. And the thing is, when I was there sitting, ready to give an answer, I decided to go for the village because it was something that I never done. And I knew would be a challenge for me and I could learn something new. And because food and beverage is something that I've been doing for the past couple of years, and it's my expertise. And I think if we always have opportunity to learn a different area, then you can understand as well. If you go back to your main functional area, then you can understand a little bit more about their needs and why they are sometimes demanding as well. So I chose to go to village. I'm not going to say I regret, but it was very challenging.
Yes, boy, that was a challenge. Maybe let's just tell the spectators a bit more. Why was it so challenging? Because the village in Napoli was actually not the village that we know from the Olympic Games. It was a couple of villages, and obviously the most important part of the village was a ship, or two cruise ships actually.
Yes. So as you know, it was divided in three clusters: Salerno, I forgot the other, Napoli, and Caserta. So we had like two cruises in Stazione Marittima, which was the heart of the event. Everybody wanted to be there. Then we had the Caserta that had 4 hotels, and then Salerno that had 2 universities and 1 hotel. So as you can see, it's like 9 different locations that you need to manage. Plus you have the airport with arrivals and departures. So it's quite complicated to be around and make sure that everything is working fine, which wasn't, but we managed to deliver our best service.
I mean, it would have worked fine if we just had enough balconies for the number of participants we had in the event.
Oh yes, like everybody asking, oh, can you please change me to a space, a room with a balcony in the cruise? And you're like, but you have a place to stay. You came here to compete or you came here on holiday, because it's two completely different things. And the thing is, we were struggling because we were getting more athletes that we supposed to, and we were running out of rooms. And then people were coming to complain about their balcony, about their view, which doesn't make any sense for us,
Well, exactly. But I think we've done a good job. We have a comment here from Ricardo. What an amazing professional team. Thanks for what you have done to the Universiade Napoli 2019. People never forget. Well, thank you very much, Ricardo. We've done our best. Well, we try to
Thank
do our
you.
best.
Because,
Okay, and
yes,
let's
Napoli
move
will
on
be
to
in
the
my heart.
current. Always. Let's move on to the current situation. Obviously, the pandemic, COVID. How did COVID affect you as an event professional?
So before I became CCW planning delivery manager for Birmingham, I was working for Expo 2020, and I was doing workforce catering. And actually, yesterday I supposed to start my first day of feeding for the volunteers and paid staff and contractors, but due to the situation, it's not gonna happen. And as you know, the thing is, when the COVID started to be a really big issue was in March, and actually I was in Glasgow on holiday, and when I came back to Dubai, I started to hear all these big events being postponed, like the Olympics in Tokyo, the European champion as well for the football being postponed. So we already knew that this would happen to us, that would get postponed. But the thing is, most of my colleagues and I as well inclusive, we never thought that we will lose our jobs. So my department actually was reduced almost to nothing. Everybody from my department lost their job. So I left Dubai. They still continued to planning for the next year. I don't think it's gonna be in the same scale. So I came back to Glasgow. I applied for this position, and luckily I got this job. Say that in the beginning, when I lost my job, I was really sad, um, thinking why this is happening. But then, of course, the person needs to look around, not not individually, but you need to see yourself in a bigger context. That this is happening not just to you; it's happening around the world. And we know that this situation is not getting better. That even though, for example, the numbers of infected people are reducing, we are still with the virus in in the system, like in the environment, and that until we find the vaccine, most events will never happen.
Yeah, and that's very true. That affected almost all events professionals. Very few were lucky enough to survive the pandemic unaffected. But that brings me to another quick question, just mindful of the time. How do you think the pandemic will actually affect your functional area? How is CCW going to implement measures to
So for the event.
sorry, to implement measures to stop viruses from spreading? Obviously, we know Birmingham is not until 2022, but none of us know
Yeah.
what the situation is going to be like when the
Yeah.
2022 games come.
So at the moment we are planning as business as usual. So we are planning as with full capacity for the venues. We are planning as well the full capacity for athletes and TOs, and we are not changing, for example, the catering flow that so that he can adapt to the COVID. Because actually the catering, for example, planning, they are quite restrict with their space, and they already have uh, rules to restrict the contamination of food, for example. So we are not changing anything. I think closer to the event, if the things don't change and we continue with this COVID situation, then we're gonna start looking in changing probably, like, for example, the capacity of the stadiums and the capacity as well of workforce and so on, and maybe changing as well project services that we're going to implement. Because, for example, for Athletes Village, we are still planning on having the buffet, but probably if in 2 years time the situation is the same, then we cannot have buffet. We need to have maybe packed meals for everybody. So, but at the moment we are planning business as usual, as a normal event um, would happen in 2 years time.
And let's hope it's going to be like that. We have one more question from Neo. So far, would you do village management again, or would you like to stay in CCW?
If they invite me to do village management in Napoli, I would say no. No, I'm joking. I'm always happy, open and happy to move around in other FAs. If one day somebody invites me to do, I don't know, accreditation or logistics, I will be happy to do it because actually all the functional areas they're like interconnect. We depend of each other to make sure that we do our job. So, for example, the village management, they depend on transport, they depend on catering and cleaning and waste to be able to deliver the village to athletes. And catering as well, for example, we depend on logistics to be able to deliver our trucks in the venue. So
Absolutely.
this is one, it's one event, one team. So I think the more you work in different FAs, the better you understand the event, and then the better you can as well solve, you be more open to problem solving issues.
Absolutely. Well, we've got a comment from Anna, who was the head of village in Napoli. So shout out to our boss. Without you, Naples village wouldn't have not been the same. And I
Uh,
agree.
thank you, thank you. It was hard, tough times, but yeah, it
We
was
survived.
fun at the end. I would say, yeah, we survived. This I wanted to say.
Lovely. So typically at the end of the interview, we always ask the guests for an advice. So I would like to ask you, what advice would you give someone who would consider moving to the events industry from a stable job, full-time career, to someone who'd like to do what you did, just risk everything and try to find a career in events?
Wow, first thing is like be crazy. Don't don't be afraid to jump, to give a big step, and always follow your heart because this is what will tell you what is good or not for you. Like your dreams are the ones that drive your life. You know, without the dream, you don't have basically a life. But yeah, be crazy. Don't be afraid of moving to a country and that you don't speak the language and you don't know anybody, that completely change from, let's say, from arts to, I don't know, to marketing, because that if that's your passion, then it's gonna go well.
So would you say it was worth it for you?
It was worth it. It was really hard. Now that I look back, I can say that I grew as a professional person, and personally as well. I grew a lot and became more independent and more open-minded. So I only see benefits from the crazy change that I did in the past.
Amazing. That's what we wanted to hear. All right, then. Well, thank you very much for your time, Fat, today. Thank you to our amazing audience for your questions and comments. Please remember you can rewatch this episode on YouTube. On Ignite's YouTube channel, you can find the first season and the rest of the second season. And the final episode of the second season will take place on the 7th of September. So please tune in. And thank you for your time today. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.